Okay, so I'm gonna do a quick demo of a mod that I'm working on. This mod is called Bedrock Resources, and it revolves around harnessing magic type things from Bedrock, right? And it's still very early on. Okay, so let's get to it. Let me start up my dev world. And the way that the mod starts is that there's an ore called Endirian ore, which is essentially an infusion between obsidian and enderman. Essentially, when endermen walk over, like, that's the lore, and when an enderman walk over obsidian, it can infuse it and make it form this ore. Okay, and it can be infused into Endirian ingot, which can be formed into this nifty little knife you see here with little animations going around. It's meant to be a mid/late game mod, and you start by right clicking Bedrock, right? It says, oh, that message, I can fix it, but it says that the first time that you do this, it gives you a lot of flux into your system, and every other time that you do it, it gives you significantly less, right? With the idea that now you understand what's going on, so now you're a little bit more careful each time you do it. Okay, so let's get myself into survival for now. And there's also this tank, which might stay, might not stay, might change a little bit, no idea. And this tank, you can see visually how much it has. It's literally just a holder for the scrapes, nothing else can go in there. My plan is to make it be able to hold like 5 stacks here. And yeah, so from there, probably the first thing you want to craft is this, which I will change later on, the iron for Endirian, because at the time I just didn't have it. So now let me grab this, and the moment you craft it, right, if I go here and I craft it, it tells you now understand flux, you can sense more about it in your world around you, and it goes, you can see it update, right? Right now I have it, if I shift right click on air, it removes it. Obviously that's not gonna be there in the end result. And this also doubles as your book, right? So you have here all the things that are in the mod. You can click any one of them, you can shift around, you can zoom in, zoom out, right? You can click on them. Some of them have multiple pages, and here's where all the recipes and everything is also going to be here later on. Okay, and after that, probably the next thing you want to create is this multi-block structure, which essentially mines Bedrock scrapes for you and automatically outputs them into a chest. If there's no chest, it'll just throw it into the world. It has no internal inventory, and it only works if it's on top of Bedrock, right? So if I go back into creative mode, because I forgot I can't break Bedrock when I'm survival, and it'll stop working. Floor must be Bedrock, right? So if I go back into this, it's now completely working, right? So there's 12. Once this finishes, if we give it a second, it will go up to 13. And if it's full, then it'll keep throwing into the world. Okay, this structure must be built like you see it, right? The orientation needs to be like that. It's composed of 1 controller and 3 slaves. If you don't place them how they're supposed to, they're not gonna work, right? And you need to place them how, like, going around them like that. And now if I right click it, it works, right? So yeah, the next thing after that, there is a easier way to get this ingot in case that for some reason in your world you can't find it, or you're a server and everybody decided to craft lots of them. There's this crafting recipe, and there's a better recipe, which I don't have the altar right here, but there's a structure that spawns in world, right? So if we go and we create a new world real quick, we can find a structure that spawns. It's not extremely uncommon, it's also not extremely common, so you might have to look a little bit for it. But if you're in creative or anything along the line, or I'm debugging, there's a command, right? There's a set of command in Bedrock commands you can change your flux here, but you can also find the nearest altar to you and teleport to it. It throws you into the air exactly above it, and that's why you have absorption, so when you fall you don't die, in case you did this in survival. And this is what the structure looks like, right? The structure, let me clear this up just because, I don't know, I like it, right? The structure is a crafting place, right? So if I get some obsidian and I get some ender pearls and I get some gold to infuse with, right? We place the gold in the middle and we place obsidian on the top. And then, since right clicking ender pearls does that, I created a second way of putting ender pearls in, which is just right clicking. If you shift right click, you can put Eye of Ender, it'll look for it in your inventory, and that's how you know you made the right recipe. And if I grab Bedrock scrapes and I right click it here, you'll see that particles start appearing that are a little bit off, but for the most part they work, right? You'll see that as the particles go in, the items get consumed, right? And once it does, it gives you 4 of them, right? That number might go up, might go down, I don't know yet, but that's the idea. Okay, and from there, the other thing that I've implemented so far is a ritual system. The ritual system must be centered on an Enderian ingot, on an Enderian block, sorry, and it's a 7x7 tops, right? It might be less, but the biggest the recipe can be right now is a 7x7, and it's a combination of wire, pedestals, and bricks underneath empty blocks, right? If the block is empty, underneath it must be an Enderian brick. Yeah, Enderian brick, I think is the name for it. And from there, we give it a recipe, right? Let's, for now, the first one, let's get hose, sure. And let's get rid of all of this stuff. And let's grab some hose. And if we right click, whoop, that's not how I meant to right click that. Whoops, blup, 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 blup. And we light ourselves on fire. You can't light yourself on fire on creative. I always forget. And you light yourself on fire. You get a nifty little animation. That is the ritual. It's still a little bit of work. It's in progress. It's a little bit wonky. But I think so far so good, right? Feedback is greatly appreciated. And it takes around, I think, 6 seconds per item right now. I'm thinking of making that a config option that I can change around. And it says now I have an active host, so now I can right click a block. If I'm shifting, it won't do it. And the reason for that is that this is, let me go back to grid so I can get some, yeah, diamond shovel. Perfect. If I get some diamond shovels and I infuse myself with these diamond shovels, you can till the earth, essentially. And the reason to infuse yourself with these different things is not only so you can till the earth, is because your hands will actually acquire the attributes of that specific tool, right? So dirt is gonna be, you're gonna be able to mine it a lot faster now that you have shovels infused. You can, for everything except the hoe, you can use any tier of tools you want. So you could use diamond shovel, you can use gold shovel or anything. But to do this, it needs to be a gold shovel, right? A diamond shovel, sorry. A gold shovel, iron, stone, and wood will not let you do this. So that needs to be a diamond one, right? And if we go, for example, and we grab some gold pickaxes, right? There we go, and there we go. And the idea with the sword is that your attack damage with your hand will go up. That bit is still not implemented, but that will be, that's pretty much the next thing that I'm planning on implementing, making it so when you have the sword, your damage without anything with your fist goes up. Right, so, okay, this is almost done. And with the axe, your speed on mining wood things goes up. That one is already implemented. Right, so if I go over here, I have a gold pickaxe, so blop, 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 and there we go. Right, I don't know, there we go. I don't know why it was so fast for a second. I gotta check that out, but yeah, It's normally not that fast. I think it was just it derped up and it didn't detect my empty hand. But there we go. That's the speed it should be going. Yeah. And there we go. And the speed at which I'm mining depends greatly on the tool that I enchanted, right? That I infused onto yourself. If you do a wooden one, it'll be slower than this, and it won't be as fast as the tool itself. Okay, and also infusing yourself will give you some flux into your system, so be aware of that, and the amount of flux will depend on the amount of wire the ritual has. Okay, and I think it might also depend on the level of the tool, right? But that bit is not implemented yet. I'm also going to implement a decorative version of these ritual pillars, which will be cheaper than the ones that actually use for the pillars, in case you want to use it in a decorative build or anything along the line, because I think they look pretty nifty, right? Holding your items there, like put one next to the door and just grab your sword on the way out, right? I don't think I mentioned it, but the way to get items out right now is the scraping knife, because I didn't want to do it just right clicking, because to put an ender pearl in you need to right click, right? But the ones that are going to be for decoration, you can just remove them by right clicking with an empty hand. And I'm also going to make them so when you give them a redstone signal, they just spill out, right? So if you have one by your door with your sword, you can just put it in, and when you walk by your door and open it up with a pressure plate, it'll just give you your sword, and you won't have to like be right clicking or anything along the line, right? So I think that's everything that I've implemented into the mod so far, right? There's these different flowers, they're world gen, they appear randomly through the world. I was gonna say I didn't know why it was tilling the earth, but it's because of my hand. Since I'm right clicking, it's tilling the earth. But that's easy to fix, right? If it's a flower or something, just don't till the earth. But yeah, and these over here, these appear in the nether only. Unlike other flowers that pop off, these don't pop off, because when you break them, they light you on fire and they give you blazed powder. So I didn't want you to be able to like cheat the system by just breaking the block and getting the blaze powder, because I felt that was a little overpowered. So yeah, I think that's pretty much everything. And there's also this cool stuff that you'll be able to infuse with some other stuff. Feedback is greatly appreciated. Let me know what you think. Also, before I go, I wanted to mention that I am thinking on doing a tutorial on the different aspects of modding, from zero to all the way to stuff like this, like stuff, world generation, your own crafting recipes, flower generation in world, rendering stuff based on the information on a tile entity, rendering stuff on a GUI based on the tile entity, doing GUIs, doing containers, doing events such as the one over there, that when you light on fire specific things happen, or when I right click a block something happens. Also the hoe thing and the shovel thing don't work if you have a tool like a pickaxe, a shovel, an axe, or a sword in your hand. It won't work. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the demo. Uh, and yeah, as I said a couple times, feedback's always appreciated.